All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for today's Mindful Moment session. My name is Jean, and this week we will be talking about self compassion. So let's get into it. Compassion, or specifically self compassion, means treating yourself like you would treat a friend with kindness, empathy, and understanding. So, a key part of calming your inner critic is having mindful, loving kindness phrases at the ready. And this is really important because typically it's really easy for a mind to kind of criticize everything that we do. And it's easy to get into that negative cascade. But right when you're thinking about those, being able to think of these loving kindness phrases helps you get out of that habit and it helps you build self compassion. So, having phrases like, "This is a difficult moment. Many people experience this. I am not alone." Repeating these phrases to yourself, "May I be kind to myself?" It will actually facilitate your self compassion and can be particularly helpful in situations where, for example, you had a problem or you made a mistake. It will actually encourage you to work towards solving that problem instead of continually trying to criticize yourself. So embrace the voice in your head with objectivity and compassion because there's probably always going to be a small voice that's criticizing you. But recognizing that that voice is telling you that in reality you're going to be okay, and facing it with these loving kindness phrases, as I said, can help us get out of those difficult situations. So, here are some ways we can calm our inner critic. One of the ways is to make friends with a voice in your head. So, what this means is carefully think about what that voice in your head is telling you to do. Understand it and then try to counter it with these loving kindness phrases so that we can kind of make friends with them, but also be have an objective mindset towards this inner critic. A second way is to use a physical calming gesture, such as putting your hands on your heart, wherever you find best and calming. And this kind of helps us ground grounds us and reassures us that kind of we are okay because physical calming gesture to ourselves lets our body know that we're being self-compassionate to ourselves and kind of thinking back to ourselves and caring. And another way is self-compassion journaling. So this can be reflecting on your day, or it can it can be reflecting on your day, except the only difference between normal journaling and self compassion journaling is that we try to use a self compassion mindset. So we try to be empathetic to ourselves when journaling, obviously reasonably, and kind of just reflecting on our day. I think that would be a really good thing to try out. All right, so now we're going to transition to our weekly mindful practice. But before that, we're going to take 3 deep breaths. So breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. All right. we're going to do our mindful practice and hope you enjoy. Uh, Hello, Miss Vivian. We have kind of started a bit, so we're just practicing. We're just doing our mindful practice right now. But thank you for coming today. All right, so now that we are finished with our mindful practice, um, I would like us to have some discussion. So, can you think of any more loving kindness phrases? What is self compassion and what is it not? And any practices you can think of that help bring self compassion. So, for some look at loving kindness phrases, previous ones we talked about were kind of being empathetic to yourself and recognizing that what you're going through, most other people, there's at least one other person that goes through this. So you're not alone in the situation, and helping to allowing you to recognize that you will overcome this difficulty or whatever it is. So for me, some loving kindness phrases might be, you know, like especially when I'm in a difficult situation, trying to reassure myself, just try and do what you think is best for you. And try to think about how to be better to yourself and things like that. So, really, it doesn't have to be a specific phrase that someone else comes up for you. It could just be anything that you think is best at comforting yourself when you're in a difficult situation and when you have that inner critic going on in your head. What is self compassion? Self compassion is basically having that non judgmental, objective way that you look at yourself and trying to be more empathetic with yourself. However, it isn't saying that you can do anything that you want to and you can just be self-compassionate to yourself and think that it's the right thing, because that just doesn't follow common morals. And so there's a certain boundary to having self-compassion and then being over empathetic with yourself. So any practices you can think of that helps bring self-compassion. One practice is to, when you're in those difficult situations, to look at yourself as if maybe and act as if you would towards a friend. Because typically we don't treat our friends like we treat ourselves in terms of criticizing ourselves. And so kind of having that bird's eye view, or having that, like, maybe looking at it towards a different perspective as if you would from an observer. All right, so we're going to end our session with the quote that relates to what we were talking about this week, which is self-compassion. If your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. So a lot of times I see that some people, they have a lot of compassion for others and they're very nice. And other people, they're really enjoyable to be around. However, sometimes they're really hard on themselves. So the goal here is to not only be compassionate to others, but also really in the first place, to be compassionate towards yourself so you can have that completeness. And I just want to reference two sources that I looked at, and some of the content in this session was inspired by National Geographic Everyday Mindfulness issue and Dr. Kristen Neff's. She has a website called selfcompassion.org. So if you would like to check that out, it has a lot of detailed exercises and more information about self-compassion. And thank you so much for joining me today for this week's Mindful Moments session. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you all have a mindful week ahead of you.